I would never accept money to jeopardize my integrity as a journalist.
Blake Lively is suing a former co-star Justin Baldoni from their time together on It Ends With Us. It's the Colleen Hoover book that was turned into a movie, and Blake Lively did some producing on it. Justin Baldoni's production company was the one who made it, along with a bunch of other people, obviously. The allegations are shocking, and in my opinion, the current public response on it, like for the majority of people, is exactly proving the point of what she is suing him for and what he allegedly did, and the documents show it all. So you can have your opinion, but court documents don't lie. Here in court documents, you can see listed are the plaintiffs in the case. And the plaintiffs, if you don't know, are the ones who are being sued. The top being Wayfarer Studios. Sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly. That is the production company that produced It Ends With Us, along with Sony, but Sony is not named in the suit. The people who started that production company are Justin Baldoni, so her co-star, and Jamie Heath. And the next person listed is Steve Sarowitz. I honestly don't know who that is. And then Melissa Nathan, she is Justin Baldoni's PR. And then Justin Baldoni's PR, she hired someone to be more cutthroat, and this happened in August, and that was Jennifer Abel. Jennifer Abel is one of, if not the worst person named in this suit besides Justin Baldoni, in my opinion. And then also Jed Wallace is named. He is like some sort of, I think, public relations or something like that, or some sort of media. But the allegations here are pretty severe. I'm just going to highlight the most important portions of her suit that really prove her point, and people should get off the hate train. Like, you can just not like her for her interviews, but I'm going to get into a lot more of that. But a lot of the things are like retaliation, failure to investigate, because documents were signed even before they continued acting in this movie and producing the movie. And so people wonder why she didn't bring things up sooner. She did. Okay. And the final one that has affected her livelihood, as you can see, is interference with prospective economic advantage. Because of this smear campaign, she was not able to promote any of her new businesses. It affected her mental health and everything. You may be wondering why I referenced that video at the beginning, this video here of this reporter, journalist, whatever she calls herself, saying that she was not paid to smear Blake's name. And that is because of this text message here. I'm kind of skipping ahead, but I feel like it's important to show you because it will help to get a full, well-rounded picture of this story and why it is such a big deal. Okay, so this is a text message between Melissa Nathan, Justin Baldoni's PR person, and Jennifer Abel, the crisis manager PR person, So here it says, and this message she's sending to, she's also including Jamie in it. And Jamie is Jamie Heath, who is named in the suit, who is Justin Baldoni's business partner of their production company that produced It Ends With Us. Hopefully you're following. Email reads, "Hi, Jamie, Jen. So incredibly glad that the press went so well today. And from what I know, Justin felt incredibly supported. He's lucky to have you all. We took the day today to do some research and get digital quotes from the two teams we use that get the best results. As you are both aware, we are in the predicament that we just do not know the outcome of right now. Saying that full transparency is key here. We have seen the most innocuous issues turn giant due to socials or the hugest crisis, I don't know, it's spelled wrong, have some effects on social whatsoever. You just cannot tell at this stage. But Blake Lively does have some of the Taylor Swift fan base, so we will be taking it extremely seriously. We also understand audience is not solely Justin Baldoni fan base, but the studio, so it is covering all bases time. Quote 1, $175,000. This will be for a 3 to 4 month period and includes websites to discuss, full Reddit, full social account takedowns, full crisis team on hand for anything, engage with audience in the right way, start threads of theories to discuss. This is the way to be fully 100% protected. Quote 2, $25,000 per month, minimum 3 months, as it needs to seed, same as above. This will be for creation of social fan engagement to go back and forth with any negative accounts. helping to change narrative and stay on track. All of this will be most importantly untraceable. There is a lot more to both these quotes, but easier to discuss via phone in terms of capabilities and what I have personally experienced in and out of crisis scenarios. Either way, I do feel it is better to be safe, but I do realize costs are something I am not sure you did not count on when you took on this project nor this situation. Let me know what you would like to discuss more around on PT tomorrow. You cannot refute this. I mean, people can say it's a fake text messages, but it's brought in the courts, right? So like, why would it be, So that text message thread showed that you had to have a minimum 3 to 4 month stint of posting content and related to Blake Lively to smear her name. The reason why I shared that individual at the beginning, who is a journalist, is because of this video here. So she did this video here 4 months ago, right when the smear campaign started. I believe her video was posted August the 10th. And I'll get into the dates a little bit later, but like more specific with the text messages and when this was planned to begin. But she did this video 4 months ago that says the Blake Lively interview that made me want to quit my job, that has 5.8 million views now. And then right after that, she posted the real reason my Blake Lively interview went viral. And then after that, what really happened during my reunion with Blake Lively. And then after that, she posted body language expert Spidey reacts to hidden signals during Blake Lively interview. Another one, Blake Lively made reporters drink gin during interview. And the most recent one that I watched yesterday, and it says how I feel about being dragged into Blake Lively's lawsuit. And this is because that original interview that she had posted that said, this is an interview that made me want to quit my job. That interview she had posted 8 years after the interview even took place. The only reason why I was able to find the exact date that it was posted, because in one of her videos she says it was 8 years ago, was using that Google search between two dates thing, because all the timelines in Google searches and search engines are getting filled with the current news. But as you can see here, August 5th, 2016, it was only posted in Norway. It did make its way here. Like, I'm in Canada. I'm sure it went to the US as well. But I have vivid memories of seeing that interview with the girl, the reporter and these two. And I remember thinking that reporter sounded like an idiot. I remember thinking she was basically fat shaming her or like talking to her about women's things only, Like, I know in the recent thing with It Ends With Us, Blake was talking about clothing, but I'm going to get into that. But the reporter made that comment and there was no public outcry then. None whatsoever. Blake was like the sweetheart. Everyone knew her as being like so amazing and whatever. And it's not that people's eyes were suddenly open. At least in my opinion, maybe some people believe their eyes were just suddenly open recently. There was no public outcry at the time with how Blake was. And a good thing to remember is she was like 8.5 months pregnant. And the first question that interviewer says is, oh, nice little bump. So seeing as Blake was towards the end of her pregnancy, it was bound to happen where she was going to get questions about her body, her belly, whatever. And it was at this time. So that interview was done on and released August the 5th, 2016. And then a bunch of articles around that next week were starting to post things like this, where it says Blake Lively reminds us that post-baby body standards are unfair. Along with this one by Glamour that says Blake Lively does not want your congratulations on her post-baby body. In that article on Refinery, just highlighting one of them, it seems like whenever a celebrity has a baby, everyone becomes fixated on how quickly she bounces back after the pregnancy. Thankfully, Blake Lively is having none of it. Lively sat down for a video interview with Sunrise, which is in Australia, earlier this week to promote her film, The Shallows, which was part of that press tour with that interviewer who said like she was treated so poorly, wanted to quit her job. Which she actually never said that at all around that time, right? She never came out and publicly said anything till 8 years later when all this smear campaign stuff started. And she promptly shut down the idea that a woman has to bounce back and strive for a perfect post-baby body. The segment started off awkwardly enough when the enthusiastic interviewer introduced Lively as someone who is so well known for being Mrs. Ryan Reynolds. Sure, Lively and Reynolds make an adorable couple, but come on. When will mainstream media realize all women are more than whom they've married? After all, Blake was already and remains successful on her own, way before she was Mrs. Reynolds. When asked about her fitness regime, Lively shared that she had to do a lot of endurance training 8 months after having her baby in order to prepare for the film. The interviewer then points out that doing a film like The Shallows is a great way to get a hot post-baby body. This is why she was triggered, and rightfully so. Like, people will definitely say like, oh, celebrities are normal people, so they have to be careful how they talk to people. But people can also have self-awareness on how you speak to anybody, no matter what their celebrity status is, and know that they can have boundaries. They can not like your questions. And this was referring to how the comments happened post her first baby, and she had to get into shape for this movie. And then now, nearing the end of her pregnancy, she was like trying to get ahead of it. She didn't want people asking her questions about how she got into shape, because that initial question in that interview with the girl I've highlighted in this video so far is like, oh, look at your little bump, because she knew the question was perhaps going to come about how do you stay into shape, because this journalist has asked questions of male and female celebrities about how they get into shape and like all the body type stuff that people back then wanted to know, but nowadays that really wouldn't be that much of a question unless the celebrity brought that forward, because we live in a different society now in that regard, thankfully. Knowing that backstory, like, I hate taking things, like, I don't really take things at face value. I like to look a little bit deeper. And if you take it at face value, no problem. Like, we're all entitled to think how we want to think, But it makes sense why she hit back at that, right? The other reason why I think that this journalist could potentially be one of the people who were possibly paid, maybe not directly, but maybe even indirectly, on her content is because of this video right here that I saw that says the real reason my Blake Lively interview went viral. And that was the one she posted, I think, next or the third video after, which was 4 months ago. As you can see, it almost has 1 million views. And that was shocking to me.
Watching. I got so many questions from people asking why I decided to post that interview now, 8 years later. And the reason for that is that I got contacted by another reporter who told me a story that was a little similar to this one that he had experienced. And then we started talking about comparing notes about this. And then I just felt like, you know what? It's not okay to behave like that. And I think it needs to be called out. And so that's the reason why I did that now so much later. And also because it took me a while, to be honest with you, it took me a while to actually get over it. It affected me for...
So I am extremely skeptical if the person who contacted her is even had a story or experience with Blake. But that is all fishy to me. Connecting all those pieces is very fishy to me, and you'll see more why when the media companies are mentioned later on in these documents and text messages that I'm going to read some stuff to you. And the fact that she's posting now with the same day that the news came out, she's posting her video, she's hopping on these trains, whatever. It is what it is. Everyone's entitled to post content when you want to post content. I'm posting content during this. And the reason why I'm hopping on the train talking about Blake Lively when I never talked about it in the first place, first of all, I told you I don't know if I said this, but I didn't click on anything, because when the majority of people believe one thing, I'm just like, what's the point in talking about it? But with this, seeing court documents now, I'm just like, why do people think like this? These are just some screenshots from a couple comments. So I think it was on E! News or something. And this is how the majority of the public think right now. Hopefully the tides are going to be turning soon. But I want to show you what the general, I want to show you what the general consensus is right now online, which if you're following this, you already know. But this comment, for example, right here, it says, I don't buy what she's saying. If she had really been why finish the movie? Only to promote your hair products and cocktail line with the release, and then months later come up with this makes no sense when it wasn't months later, which I'll show you in the documents. And then this one right here that says, such entitlement, spoiled, mean girl who cannot handle any rejection. Instead of doing the right thing, taking responsibility and changing her toxic behavior, she chose to make false claims and attempt to make Justin the bad guy herself. Sorry, it's cut off there. Herself, just gross. And then this one right here, I hope Justin countersues Blake for attempted defamation. That to me is absolutely insane. You're going to see why I think that. So Blake's issues actually begin at the start of filming in 2023. However, on court documents here, it shows on January 4th, 2024 is when Blake Lively had a meeting with Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath of Wayfarer Productions, and she was able to have a representative attend that meeting with her. She chose her husband, Ryan Reynolds, to attend that meeting with her. She had raised concerns prior to, and then filming was on pause because of that Guild Actors strike. And so they were on pause, and then filming was supposed to resume in January. And prior to this meeting, her concerns were dismissed. So she shows up at this meeting, which is very smart, and get everything in writing about what had occurred. As you can see here, written in the document, is that it says the list below was reviewed and discussed in its entirety, and all parties present agreed that the outlined conduct would cease. So number 1, no more showing full frontal, videos or images of women, including the producer's wife, to Blake Lively and or her employees. So it could be like assistants or whatever. Number 2, no more mention of Mr. Baldoni's or Mr. Heath's previous adult video issues, when people can't stop watching those, and that revolves around their whole life, or Blake Lively's lack of that consumption to Blake Lively or other crew members. That's disgusting that they did that. 3, no more discussions to Blake Lively and or her employees about previous experiences with sex, including as it relates to spouses or others. No more mention to Blake Lively or her employees or personal times that physical consent was not given in blank acts as either blank or blank, like as in the person who did it or it happened to. 5, no more descriptions of their own blank to Blake Lively, as in what their parts look like. Number 6, no more jokes or disparaging comments to be made to Blake Lively and or her employees about HR complaints Wayfarer has already received on set, or about missing the HR meeting. So, like I said a few moments ago about that her issues were brought forth in 2023, it's no more making comments about those issues being raised and then, joking about it. Number 7, no more inquiries by Mr. Baldoni to Blake Lively, trainer, without her knowledge or consent to disclose her weight. Like, what's the issue with talking about her weight? That's so ridiculous that he even did that, 8, no more mention by Mr. Baldoni on him speaking to Blake Lively's father, who's no longer here. Number 9, no more pressing by Mr. Baldoni for Blake Lively to disclose her religious beliefs or unsolicited sharing of his. She's trying to keep it professional, probably doesn't want to get into arguments if they don't believe the same thing. Makes sense. Number 10, if Blake Lively and or her infant is exposed to COVID again, Blake Lively must be provided with immediate notice as soon as Wayfarer or other producers become aware of such exposure without her needing to uncover days later herself. As a mother myself who has had COVID experience and respiratory illness experience, it is appalling when people, go out in public and who are sick and spreading their illness. But when she is in a closed set, or supposed to be a closed set, it wasn't, but a closed set at work, and she has to spread this information on to people about, like, did you have it, or whatever the conversations were on why her kids contracted something that could actually seriously harm children, that is problematic. So it's like he tried to ruin her in all aspects. He's not cool. Number 11, an intimacy coordinator must be present at all times when Blake Lively is on set and scenes with Mr. Baldoni. What is interesting about that intimacy coordinator is that when all this stuff was spilling out about, trying to throw her under the bus, people resurfaced interviews about Justin Baldoni. He almost saying that Blake was the intimacy coordinator, or acting as if he hired one. And then Blake was asked the question about it, and she said, yeah, I think it's important, blah, blah. I'll roll both those interviews for you.
Early on in the process, right when we started pre-production, we started searching for our intimacy coordinator, and we ended up having 2 intimacy coordinators because we had a big, long break. I wanted to make sure that those scenes had a female gaze.
And then the one that Blake mentions intimacy coordinators is when this interview here on Digital Spy, it was the same time 4 months ago when all this stuff started happening, that she was asked the question about intimacy coordinators. This interview is really good. So in the comment sections of videos, I've been seeing people talk about how, Blake said all those things out of her mouth and I'm judging her based on what she said in those interviews. But I saw a really good comment, and there's not many comments like this because everyone seems to be on Justin's side. But this comment right here on this video that the New York Times did, showing everything that they did in their story that they did on their website, it says here, it says what, so people were like saying that in the comments, and this person responded and said, what PR people do is select exactly what gets the most visibility. There's clips they could have boosted that would have made you like her. And this is very true, because of the money that went into this whole thing, I for sure, especially like just regular people like you and I, can boost our own posts if we want to. You know, TikTok recommends it to me all the time, you know, and you can do that on YouTube as well. So I wholeheartedly believe this comment that they could have boosted interviews with her that made people like her. And that is that next one with the intimacy coordinator. That whole interview is amazing. And a big reason why I bring that up is because, as you can see here, it only has 485 views 4 months later. Like, even now it's not being boosted in the slightest. So it's actually a really good interview. The interviewer, like I said, asked about the intimacy coordinators, and the way that Blake is answering the question, she's so nice, and she's with her co-star here. And there was a name blocked out in the document of someone else, because there was multiple people who experienced all of the stuff that Blake is alleging in her court documents that happened to her, that happened to other people. And the way that she is here with her co-star here is the way she holds her hand. I think she also experienced things, because she talks about how Blake stood up for her and helped her feel confident in speaking up, and as an actress and all this stuff. It's incredible. So I'll just play that intimacy coordinator part for you, but please go to this channel. It's actually really good, and Blake definitely had good interviews. Like, I only found this one, and it's really hard to find the good interviews because all the other ones are in the algorithm, you know, for like the drama. But she has good interviews from that time. They just clearly boosted the bad ones, which is what this whole smear campaign was about.
I know you've worked with intimacy coordinators in this movie. Mm-hmm. How much of a difference does it make to have this role, this figure in a film set?
Well, that's a nice question. I think it's critical to have an intimacy coordinator. I think that, like, you coordinate stunts, you coordinate dancing. It's choreography. Mm-hmm. So to be able to say, you know, this was what happens here, here, and here in a stunt, and this is what happens here, here, and here in a dance. But like, now you guys just go put your bodies together and your mouths and whatever, and just like action and cut. Like, that's sort of ridiculous. So I think that being choreographed is critical for everyone's safety.
There is a lot more discussed in this document. As you can see here, there are up to 30 points discussed of things that have to meet Blake Lively's and other cast members and employees of Blake have to be met. But I've had to censor a lot of words, and so it's just, if you want to read the document, it's on the New York Times, and it's very easy to find. You just sign up for a free account, and you get one free article for a lifetime with the New York Times. But basically, all of them involve either Jamie Heath or Justin Baldoni, or both, talking about their problems watching that type of content, and then also not having a closed set, that Mr. Baldoni's or Mr. Heath's friends were allowed on set, and it was supposed to be a closed set, and Blake Lively only wanted people who were also actors in the film, like approved actors, to be on set while they were filming intimate scenes. And they would be like, oh, that's just my friend, like, that's not right. And then even like viewing the scenes happening, there couldn't be any remotely viewing the scenes. Everyone who viewed the scene had to be in that room, and actors or, hired people on set. And so this wasn't adhered to, which is why she had this meeting. It is far more sinister and disgusting than people are being led to believe online. It's because people aren't sharing all the information. And yes, I'm not reading all out to you, but I'm telling you that they have discussed like what their areas look like. And then also with that closed set, one time Blake had her legs, like that. And he had his friend there, Mr. Heath did. And that is an intimate scene. And then even like in this document, it also says that Justin Baldoni can't like improvise scenes. Everything has to be on script, because there were times where they were kissing and he was out of character and would say things, and she knew he wasn't in character the way he spoke to her while they were kissing. So there were many lines crossed, and this meeting was essential for Blake. And like I said, she had brought it forth in 2023. Reading all this in the document in like crazy detail makes you be like, okay, regardless if you think she's rude about like not wanting to talk about her bump or wanting to talk about fashion, but then talking about fashion with this one, which I'm going to get into in a moment, it doesn't negate any of this. People believed Brianna Chicken Fry with her stuff with Zach Bryan, even though she has been deemed a terrible person for so long on social media. So I think the same grace should be given for Blake. I guess she's a massive celebrity. Like, people should be giving her grace, because Justin Baldoni, if all this stuff is true, which I personally believe it is, and that's just my opinion, then he's a disgusting human, and I can't wait to see Blake get her day in court if that is shown to us or we learn about the outcome. It's quite gross what he has done. So at the conclusion of the meeting, this is the point I want to highlight. It says, we find most of them not only reasonable, but also essential for the benefit of all parties involved. So they agreed to all of her terms of what she had outlined in all those points. So during the press junket time before the release of the movie, besides the issue of how Blake spoke to some people in the past, all that stuff coming out, people had a problem with how Blake talked about the film. Now, an important thing to know is that was an agreed upon marketing plan from July of 2024. So as you can see, it says updated July 29th, 2024 of what was going to be discussed and what was allowed and what they were trying to focus on during that time. Right here, it says what to avoid. It says focus more on Lily's strength and resilience as opposed to describing the film as a story about DV, empowerment. Empowerment is not just about standing up to adversity, but also about having the power to overcome within oneself and grow from it and developing agency to shape the future. Avoid describing the film as a love story or love triangle. It's a story of Lily learning how to take agency of her future, which is exactly what Blake did. And everyone was all pissed off about it, but she talked about Lily's strength.
For me, what was really important for the character was that you understood she was like a walking, talking contradiction, but also she could be all things at once. She could be both strong and vulnerable. She could be both masculine and feminine. She could be artistic and overly expressive and fashion and fabulous, but she could also be very grounded in utility.
And yes, she talked about fashion, but because what I learned from doing my research is that Colleen Hoover, as you most would know, is that she did romance novels. Well, the first half of the movie was about romance, and then it switched, because it showed the type of relation that she had, and people in those type of relationships know that is factual of what happens. You're love bombed, all that kind of stuff. But some comments I've seen online, I don't know if I took a screenshot, I can post it here if I did, but have said that perhaps Blake was trying to keep up with that, showing the audience that, hey, this movie was first about love, and then it switched, but Lily has strength, that could be it, because even the readers of the books thought it was more romancy until you learn the story of what actually happened. Unless you heard it from social media, of course, what it was about. It says, avoid talking about this film that makes it feel sad or heavy. It's a story of hope, which is what Blake did. Avoid talking about the film being a representative of every woman's story. There are many stories of DV, and this is just one perspective that is inspired by Colleen Hoover's own perspective growing up. She literally did what she was supposed to do. What was agreed upon, that is what Blake did, okay? As we can see in this document here. During this time when they had the cast out in public doing appearances, the cast weren't taking pictures with Justin Baldoni. And then it was shown, people discovered that they weren't following him on social media. So people thought maybe was he sick or what was, there was a rift going on. And eventually the story was that Blake was turning the whole cast against him, but that would be impossible. And people think because of her celebrity status that happened. But why would an entire cast listen to one person against the director of the film? That makes absolutely no sense. So he agreed to the marketing plan, right? And then it says here in the court documents, at this point number 7, in the days leading up to the film's release, Mr. Baldoni abruptly pivoted away from the film's marketing plan and the types of publicity activities in which he had previously participated. What the public did not know was that Mr. Baldoni and his team did so in an effort to explain why many of the film's cast and crew unfollowed Mr. Baldoni on social media and were not appearing with him in public. To that end, he and his team use DV survivor content to protect his public image, as described in further detail below. They did this in an effort to save face because they weren't sure if Blake was going to become public with this information, so they did it to try to steer the narrative. This was the beginning of the narrative being steered. So the film was supposed to be coming out, I believe it was August 9th, 2024. And then the days leading up to the film's release, this is when they started their plan of, attack on Blake. Now at this point, this is when Jen Abel joins their power team. This is her here. This is a picture from this Instagram right here. Her marketing company is this RWA Comms. And she is the one who had the stealthy, aggressive approach with how to take down Blake. And this was that planning. This was the start of the planning. And it says it's confidential scenario planning and ends with us. It says to protect the reputation of Justin Baldoni, Jamie Heath, and Wayfarer, if I'm saying that wrong, I'm sorry, studios in the lead up and during the premiere of It Ends With Us. So they discussed all possible scenarios, and what they wanted to do is protect his reputation on if anybody came out. It says, overview. Though there are several potential scenarios at play here which we should be prepared for, should Blake Lively and her team make her grievances public via a blatant story or a subtle leak, given she was made to compromise with the premiere, we feel she will still move forward with doing so. Our recommendation is to get ahead of this narrative, owning any misconceptions and addressing them head on. Ultimately, we need to be ready to take the air out on any of the story that does arise, as well as any commentary and or background narrative Blake Lively and her team put together without being the louder antagonizer. So that was their initial, was to start slow with protecting his reputation. It says crisis mitigation rapid response. Our team will establish a rapid response communication system which keeps Justin, Jamie, and Wayfarer Studios abreast of new coverage and narrative trends in real time, both in traditional media and social media. They wanted to highlight with some key messaging points, which was Justin Baldoni's stellar reputation with his colleagues and industry peers, because if he's had any issues, I don't think people have really spoken out about it. They've kind of like pivoted the questioning that they've received in press junkets. And then here it says if and then plan of action. Scenario 1, Blake and team push out negative story, read Justin and Wayfarer post premiere. And so they had a plan in place for that. And then scenario 2 was Blake subtly hints at her experience in post premiere coverage, either in an interview, op-ed, or otherwise, like the New York Times story that came out, right? And they said, our prediction is that Blake Lively addresses her experience on set in upcoming press. She will not name you directly, but rather pepper in Easter eggs, alluding to your involvement, being mindful not to completely jeopardize her potential involvement with the film's sequel while still planting seeds of doubt and speculation, blah, blah. What's interesting about that sequel thing is that I believe Justin Baldoni did have an interview in which he said something about Blake should direct the sequel of It Ends With Us, which is interesting.
We do have It Starts With Us, so I'm hoping to see you back in the double duty role.
I think there are better people for that one.
Justin.
I think Blake Lively's ready to direct. That's what I think.
And then scenario 3, they even put in if Ryan Reynolds comes forward to defend his wife. And interesting about that is that he posted on his YouTube channel an interview, which people all took the wrong way, right? Because all this stuff was coming out. I'm kind of slightly jumping ahead, but all this stuff was coming out. And we know that Ryan Reynolds is like best friends with Hugh Jackman. And so they did an interview on his YouTube channel showing with It Ends With Us, interviewing one of the stars of the film, and people were like, what is all this crap about? And it was like using their humor that they did when promoting Deadpool, and I believe that all had to do with Justin Baldoni, and even the way that I think it was Hugh Jackman spoke to the cast member. It wasn't Justin Baldoni, but talking about like Blake Lively, it seemed like they were hinting at like, why did you do this to Blake?
I've just got one question. What the hell are you doing messing with my best buddy's wife?
Sir, I have no idea what's happening.
This was the first series of text messages in the document. So at the end of July, this is between Justin Baldoni, and I'll put on the screen. I can't remember if it's between Jen Abel or the other marketing person, but Justin is saying he's not in love with the document, not sure how he's feeling the protection that he felt on the call. And then this person is saying that they could place stories in his favor, blah, blah, blah. And he's saying, yeah, it just feels very much like there's not much defense. Also them feeling strong, like she's going to do something, just a bit concerning what everyone originally thought. And I tried taking a screenshot that you could see it closer, but it was not working with the green screen. But it says, we can bury anyone, but I can write that to him. I will, and I'll be very tough. And this is between Melissa Nathan and Jen Abel. And then the document goes on to say that a few days later on August 5th, 2024, Mr. Baldoni set the narrative for the campaign, sending Miss Abel a screenshot of a thread on X that had accused another female celebrity. And then Mr. Baldoni said, this is what we need. What that was sending this screenshot of Hailey Bieber. We all know Hailey Bieber gets like the worst press on social media. And he said, this is what we need. And then the response back was, yes, I literally just spoke to Melissa about this on the break, about what we discussed last night for Social and Digital. Focus on Reddit, TikTok, and Instagram. And then the next message here was from Jennifer Abel to the team. It says, hi team, so far, extremely limited pickup on Daily Mail or Page 6. We'll continue to keep an eye out and send pieces as needed. But so far, it's been steady coverage on pure speculation. We've also started to see a shift on social, due largely to Jed and his team's efforts to shift the narrative towards shining a spotlight on Blake and Ryan. I wonder if that Jed guy who's part of media was the one who reached out to that person at the beginning of the video that I've already shared. Again, we'll continue to send links and screenshots, but wanted to send an update in the meantime. And then here it says that from Melissa to Jennifer, the majority of socials are so pro-Justin, and I don't even agree with half of them, LOL. And then from Melissa to Jennifer, it says, Jen, this went so well, I'm fucking dying. I have to call you later in a bit, and I'll tell you how this went. It was genius. And then Melissa responded to Jennifer saying, so, okay, we have four major standing down on the HR complaint. I think we are fine on that bit. And this all occurred on August the 15th. Next one here, they sent the Daily Mail article that says, is Blake Lively set to be canceled? String of hard-to-watch videos that have surfaced following tone-deaf Q&A promotes It Ends With Us could tarnish 36-year-old star's golden Hollywood image for good. And they sent the link there. And that was Melissa to Jennifer. And then Jennifer to Melissa said, wow, you really outdid yourself with this piece. Melissa said to Jennifer, that's why you hired me, right? I'm the best. Okay, I'm so sorry. I just need to say a genuine apology. I've confused myself on this because when the story broke yesterday, I was up super late last night till 1 a.m. looking up stuff. And then now it's really late the next day. And I'm looking up stuff and I got confused. So the terrible person, besides everybody obviously, is not just Jen Abel, it's Michelle. She is the shark. She is the one who was hired because she says, that's why you hired me, right? So she's the bad one. Okay, so not that they're all not bad, but that's what I meant, is that like the real aggressive one. I said it earlier that it was Jennifer Abel, but she did hire her, so whatever. But anyways, this next message here is from Justin Baldoni to Jennifer Abel, and it says, also, I need you guys to really be on all the stories I'm tagged in. I think you should let all people DM me so you can see people's reactions to film, and I can be reposting everything. These next 36 hours are crucial and we need to be on it. Looking at everything, finding the most emotional and touching content from survivors, supporting this film and reposting. Need you to be finding survivors sharing their stories and amplifying them on my page and on TikTok, which is exactly what happened. And this message is like extra messed up to me, and I'm using the lightest words possible. So he didn't just take advantage of survivors and Blake and the cast, he also wanted to try another angle. So here's another message from Justin Baldoni to Jennifer. It says, hey guys, one thing I want to do is the Dr. Amen show. Matt, I know you have your feelings about it, but this practice saved my friend Miranda's life a few months ago. With everything going on, I want to have an offensive move showing my neurodivergence and some of the attributes that come with it so that I can start talking about it. Most anything, and I have been accused of social awkwardness and impulsive speech. And I think me sitting down with him and just looking at my brain and talking about some of these things will be helpful for me. I tried to find the interview. I did not see if they did it at all. I don't think that they did, but he wanted to spin that angle to get people to like feel bad for him with his possible neurodivergence. I don't want to say he's not neurodivergent, but the fact that he was considering using this angle on top of everything else is really sick to me. And the next message shared was that possible, $250,000 if both options were used for sharing social stories on Blake Lively, like the smear campaign part. And then after that whole money thing, this is when I wanted to get into when I mentioned earlier about the media sources mentioned. This is the message I was referring to. So it's from Jennifer Abel to Jamie Heath. It says, "Thanks for the call. Confidentiality. I'm out to dinner with a friend of 12 plus years who writes for People Magazine, Fox News, In Touch, Us Weekly, and she is fully briefed of the situation and is armed and ready to take this story of Blake weaponizing feminism to any of her outlets the minute we give her the green light. She hates Blake, has heard the story before, and will do anything for us. Just FYI." What? I like looking at those news sources. That makes me I know you can't really trust media, but that sucks to find out. The next thread of messages shown, I think they're slightly out of order actually, but it says, "I'm having reckless thoughts of wanting to plant pieces this week about how horrible Blake is to work with." And what's interesting about that is that in that whole scenario planning that I read you earlier, just a little bit, I just outlined it. It says particularly here that pieces will come out of a potential hit piece and/or coverage by the premiere. Our recommendation approach would be to provide reporters who reach out to comment, should it be obvious she's referring to you, with the appropriate background information, list scenarios 1, to ensure their stories are balanced and speculation can be turned into one of many people she's had issues working with: Leighton Meester, Anna Kendrick, and Ben Affleck. Interesting about that is that I did see multiple TikTok videos about all that. I only saw one TikTok creator share about Ben Affleck.
Leighton Meester, who everyone always said that Leighton Meester was the nicest person you've ever met. It's very much so noted that these two, despite playing best friends on TV and spending so many of their formative years together very closely, were not friends in real life. And they themselves never came out to make a comment on all the controversy. They just had other people that were more PR trained be oh, they were just different people. But there were other people on that set that alleged that she was the largest diva on set and she didn't get along with a lot of people.
Okay, so everyone's talking about the awkwardness of this press tour. I think we've all forgotten about another really uncomfortable Blake Lively press tour. Remember A Simple Favour? It was released in 2018 with Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively. And the vibe was they did not get along. There were all these behind the scenes rumours that they hated each other, were hardly speaking. And whatever, the rumours would have been fine, except that a few things then happened in interviews that kind of confirmed they just did not vibe. There was a BuzzFeed interview where Anna Kendrick told a story about having to wait because Blake Lively was an hour late for a call time. And she's like, ha ha ha, that's when I knew that I hated you. Everyone was talking shit about you.
I've always believed the rumors about Blake and Ben Affleck. And the reason being is I was at a fan event. Ryan Reynolds was advertised to be there. It was a movie him and Jennifer Garner were going to be in together. Robin Lively's husband was there showing support. Blake Lively was not there. And at the very last minute, when Blake Lively was at Fashion Week in New York, it was Spring Fashion Week, Jennifer Garner made a surprise appearance. She was not on the billing. And I always sort of felt like she showed up because Blake wasn't there and she didn't want to see Blake, even though she was willing to act with Ryan.
So really, it all worked. If you saw any of those interviews from August of this year, and then now watching my video, if you watched it all, you know that it worked. It's crazy what media can do, when money's involved and when power's involved and when allegations are involved and they don't want it found out, and they can turn someone like Blake Lively, who really had no issues. No one really said anything. If you look up past stories, it's really hard to find. You have to do that Google thing I said, search between two dates, because everything, even if you do the between two dates, it still references current time, so it's hard to find. But it worked, and it's kind of scary how quickly that can work and how a main narrative can be driven just to protect a man. So I think we're seeing the downfall of supporting women, and it's sad, and I hope that we can get back to supporting women. It's not that you believe all women, but there is evidentiary proof, if I'm using that word right. Sorry, it's really late. If I'm using that word right, there is proof here that the allegations are correct, and I wonder if more people are going to be named. The names are blocked out, at least from the New York Times article, but it is in the court documents, So it's going to be interesting to see this unfold. And I really hope people start supporting her because, yeah, people think now and thought in August that those interviews sucked, but no one really thought anything back then. You know, they only thought it because everyone loved this guy. So I wonder if more people are going to speak about this guy or if they're too scared, you know, if you don't have enough money to fight it. Clearly Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have enough to fight it. And they have Hugh Jackman in their corner, like all these big celebrities. So it's interesting. His talent agency dropped him, and they also have under their talent agency, they have Blake Lively, I believe they have Ryan Reynolds, they have all these massive celebrities under them. You can check out their Instagram, it's crazy. But yeah, that is all I have for today's video. I've really enjoyed deep diving into this because I really hate when there's only one narrative push. People don't share much details because they want you to believe that Blake is just a bad person and that Justin should counter sue. Like, it's just BS to me. And you know what? The people that were hired to spin all this stuff were the same people who were hired by Johnny Depp. And we all know what we all thought of Amber Heard, you know, the number 2 on the bed and stuff. Like, I fell for everything, and I don't know what I think now. I feel like I have to go back and watch that case to really, like, form my own thoughts, not just what the main narrative was, you know. So anyways, I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas, and I don't know if I'm going to get any more content out before Christmas. Probably not. I really need to focus on wrapping presents and stuff, but I hope that you guys had a great holiday season, and bye guys.